Hello, Rama Rama Puppodu. I hope all are happy, having a nice life, living peacefully, and feeling very relaxed and happy always. Okay, now let's continue with chapter 26 Himalayan Journey. Continue. In Kedarnath, Ramdas performed a most difficult feat. All by Ram's grace, he ascended one of the surrounding high rocks covered with snow. Of course, Ram Kinkar followed him. While going up, they had to do so by holding the rough grass that grew on the hill. It was a steep ascent. For nearly half the way, Ram Kinkar accompanied Ramdas, but here he refused to go higher along with him, both on account of cold and the danger of slipping down. While Ramdas, who had surrendered himself into the hands of Ram, mounted higher and higher until he reached the summit of the hill and touched the narrow conical peak of it. As he touched the top, he gave a cry of triumph. In the name of Sri Ram, he uttered at the top of his voice, Om Sri Ram, Jai Jai Ram, O Ram, what a glorious being thou art. Now descent was most perilous. An unguarded step or slight slip meant a headlong fall and certain death of the body. However, when Ram guides, where is the fear? What danger cannot be faced boldly? Ramdas slowly crept down, nay, slipped down the hill. While doing so, it began to rain white solid globules of snow. Ramdas had ascended without any warm clothing, but by Ram's grace he felt neither cold nor fear. At last, Ram brought Ramdas safely to the base of the rock. It took 5 hours to accomplish this ascent. The height of the hill might have been over a mile, going to the source of the river Mandakini, which starts at this place where the snow melts and flows down. Ramdas took his bath. The water was, of course, very, very cold. But what cold can affect Ramdas when Ram protects? In Kedarnath, there is a temple, some shops and residences, a day's stay, and Ramdas, on the advice of Ram Kinkar, travelled onwards. After descending for some miles, the pilgrims commenced to walk up another chain of mountains. Higher and higher again they climbed. Again glorious enchanting landscapes and scenes met their eyes. At the foot of a hill they came upon a resting place where there was a small tank called Gaurikunda, wherein hot water through a hot spring is collected. There was also another tank in which the water was yellow in color. From there, Ramdas and Ram Kinkar started on their upward journey. Miles and miles of ascents were traversed. The pathway now was not so bad as that which led to Kedarnath. For days and days they walked on and at last neared the place called Badrinath or Badrinarayanan. While there was yet about half a mile to reach the place, they sat down on the side of the path and looked on the Badrinath mountains. The sight was simply bewitching. To describe the scene, the poor pen of Ramdas is quite weak and unfit. As he gazed on, Ramdas for a time lost the consciousness of his body completely, merged, absorbed, becoming one with the tall mountains in the midst of which he was sitting. Badrinath is the source of the river Alaknanda. While going up these heights at 3 or 4 places, the pilgrims had to cross over wide tracts of snow. Ramdas walked over them with naked feet. These tracts of snow are glaciers. Below the surface of these vast cakes of snow is flowing water in heavy torrents downhill to meet the river below. It is said many pilgrims, while walking over their surface, have been sucked down by the torrent below, some thin layer of snow giving way beneath their feet. The story is current that a wealthy merchant of Bombay, while being carried on a dolly or cradle-like conveyance by four strong men, was drowned and lost in the swift current below. Badrinath was reached. It was a flat valley surrounded on all sides by high mountains like Kedarnath, and here stands the temple of Badrinarayanan in white marble. At this place also there was a tank containing hot water received from a hot spring running down the hills. All pilgrims bathed in this tank. Cold here too was very intense, but Ram was kind and gracious at the same time, so Ramdas did not so much feel the rigor of the cold. Ramdas had some difficulty in gaining entrance to the temple for the darshan of Badrinarayanan, as there was a heavy rush of pilgrims at the front door. But some sickly people were permitted to get in by a narrow side door at which two pandas or Brahmins were set to watch. Ramdas sought entrance here. One of the pandas said, "If you are sick, you can come in." "No, Ramdas is not sick," replied Ramdas. "Well, pretend that you are sick." "If you are not," suggested the Pandaji. "Never," returned Ramdas. Ramdas wants not the darshan of Badrinath by telling a lie. It is against the command of Ram. Saying thus, Ramdas turned away from the place. But the kind Pandaji, at once grasping the hand of Ramdas, took him inside and getting him the darshan of Badrinath, gave him also some prasad. "O Ram, thou art testing thy slave in so many ways." Remaining in Badrinath for a day, the sadhus started on their return journey. After several days' walk, they came to a place called Ramnagar, whence the railway line starts running southward. In all, the distance travelled over the Himalayas was 400 miles, and the time taken from Hardwar to Ramnagar were 40 days. Ramnagar is, as the name suggests, a blessed place. Charity is the ideal of the people here. Near the railway station, there was a dispensary worked by the Congress volunteers for the benefit of ailing pilgrims. Hundreds of pilgrims are every day receiving aid from this dispensary. Arrangements by well-to-do citizens are made for feeding sadhus and poor pilgrims. The people of the place are kind and hospitable. For his part, Ramdas must say the same with regard to all parts of India. Wherever he travelled, Ram was uniformly kind to Ramdas in all his travels, because Ramdas had started on his travels at the bidding of Ram alone. At Ramnagar, Ramdas and Ramkinkar got into the train proceeding to Madura, which they reached in due time. Hence, here Ramkinkar was taken ill, and so proposed to return to Jhansi. During all the time he was with Ramdas, Ramkinkar was more than a mother to Ramdas. He took every care of Ramdas. It was all Ram's wish that such a friend should leave him. Accordingly, Ramkinkar left Madura for Jhansi. Ramdas was now alone, only for a few minutes, for Ram had another sadhu ready at the Dharmashala, where they were halting to take Ramdas up. That's all, folks. Let's see in the next chapter. Thank you. Bye bye. Rama Rama Puppodu.